Hi, good morning and welcome to the Senior Management and Board of Directors of the Ramsoft Solutions. My name is Tulsi Ram, being the Chief Security Officer of Ramsoft Solutions. I'm here to deliver the results of risk analysis and threat mitigation of our organization after going through the process by using the various applications. And today's agenda would be uh, organization structure, the hierarchy of the organization, and the network structure, the headquarters of our ROMs solutions, network configuration, how we configured, how we connected all the router switches, the devices, and we have asset inventory. We have identified a few asset inventory. Later, we have a risk assessment framework, and followed by risk management strategy. About our company, it was founded in 2014, one of the startup companies registered under Canada Registered Startup and the member of Canada Stock, and it's a part of NASCAM 10K Startups. Uh, we are the technology company where we assist the customers, mostly the state government, schools, where we help the students to enable the seamless identity check, which results in delightful customer onboarding for corporates and to better the service delivery by the governments. We mostly deal with startups, middle market businesses, state governments, and other corporate companies developing innovative solutions that make an impact. And this is the organization structure. Chief Executive Officer David Beckham, Security Officer myself, Financial Officer Jackson, Chief Technology Officer Charles, and followed by the Product Manager Pritchard. And this is the network architecture of our headquarters on Soft Solutions, which is based in Canada, Winnipeg. We have various departments: IT department, human resource, finance team, CEO room, marketing team, sales team. All these departments connect to the server room, which is very secure, where only authorized users have access to this room. And coming to the next slide, we have connected to our customers uh, called the University of Winnipeg, University of Manitoba, and a few of the state governments. So by using the ISP router 1 and router 2 as a backup, if any of the routers fails, we have the backup router as a redundancy to reduce the redundancy. And then it connects to internet to the customers. So the next is we have identified a few of the asset inventories and we have categorized uh, by the following. Let's say the information, software, equipment, facilities. So we'll go through all these factors in the next slide, in the coming slides. So we have a risk assessment framework. Uh, I believe it's a very huge challenge for most of the organizations to accessing and managing the risk, and even given the turbulent state of information security vulnerabilities. We have identified a few, a simple 5 steps of the risk assessment framework. The first step would be identify the risk first, and then the second step, assess that impact. What is the impact of that risk? Analyze the controls, and then remediate that, the controls, and try to access that residual risk. Coming to the risk assessment, uh, we have identified a few of the software applications, devices, and the facilities. So if you can see, the very first thing is financial information, and then followed by Windows 10, Windows Pro 10 application, followed by the HR software applications, timesheet softwares, ISP routers, server room routers, switches. We have assigned each switches for each department. So we will go through all these in detail in the coming slides. And the next is software threats. We have something called STRIDE. STRIDE defines spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. By using various tools, we have determined, we have tried to represent all the applications, how they got interacted, how they got interconnected to the firewalls, routers, switches, on the databases, applications, and how what happens when a human user, the employee, requests some data from the server, on how it went through, how it goes through all the applications, the firewalls, external server, internal servers, and how the human user gets a response from the server back to the user. So we have tried to represent this by using Microsoft tool. And the next thing is the first software application is Windows 10 software application, where our organization is being used most of the time for to save to record the data, confidential data of the employees, or about the client information. So under this, we have identified three factors. The first factor would be threat, and the second is vulnerability, followed by risk assessment. We have even got a chance to determine the exposure factors, how much exposure for this application could be exposed, and what is the annual rate of occurrence, how many times this application can be uh, attacked. And we have something called single loss expectancy. We have identified all those. For this Windows 10 application, the threat would be disclosure of information, and authorize the user might get access to the organization to steal the confidential data. And the threat likelihood would be almost certain, and the threat exposure would be very high, and vulnerability, inadequate maintenance, vulnerability severity is medium, and we have the current existing safeguard rating is very high. After determining the single loss expectancy, we have even able to calculate annual loss expectancy for this application. It's $26,512. To mitigate this risk for this application, we need to the server should be secure and protected by providing access to the authorized users. Also, IDS should be implemented at the company edge when the server access is requested. So as I mentioned, exposure factor is 75%, and the annual rate of occurrence is 8 times in a year, and single loss expectancy is 3,314. The next is we have HR application system. It's called Bamboo HR system. Uh, for this, the threat of information, and there are chances to steal the employee confidential data, and even attackers could even steal financial information because most of the applications are integrated with another application. For example, Bamboo HR application system is integrated with the financial application system. Financial application system is integrated with the timesheet application system. Likewise, and the threat likelihood is almost certain. Threat exposure is very high. Vulnerability is inadequate maintenance, and it's very high. Severity is very high. We even have the safeguard rating is very high. And after calculating the single loss expectancy, we have even able to got a chance to calculate annual loss expectancy because we have exposure factors is 40% and the annual rate of occurrence is 2. To mitigate this risk, we need to apply the patches very frequently by using the third-party application. organization and make sure to access the application within a secured environment. We even idea should be implemented at the company edge when the server access is requested. And the next application is something called an Exonia timesheet application system. So for threat disclosure, threat of information, there are chances to steal employee confidential information. Even as I mentioned earlier, each application system is integrated with another application. So there are chances to steal the financial information, and the threat likelihood is almost certain. That exposure is very high. The vulnerability is unprotected public network connection. Vulnerability severity is medium, but we have safeguard rating is very high. Annual loss expectancy is 6,722 after calculating the single loss expectancy of 3,761, and we have identified annual rate of occurrences a couple of times in a year, and exposure factor is 20%. To mitigate the risk, we need to applying the patches by a third-party organization and make sure to access this application within the secured environment. Also, regular software upgrades and applying patches needs to be performed. The next device is ISP router access system. So in this, we have identified uh, that terrorist attacks could happen. Attackers could do anything by accessing the main ISP router. For example, DOS, access to the all systems, software which are there in the organization, and unintentional acknowledging of the data disclosure, and even could misuse the networks for terrorist activities. And threat likelihood is almost certain. Threat exposure is very high. Vulnerability unprotected public network connection. Vulnerability severity very high. Existing soft safeguard rating is medium. And the annual loss expectancy is $99,932. And if you can notice this is the highest annual loss expectancies if something happens, if something happens for this device, because exposure factor is 95% and the annual rate of occurrence is 12 times in a year. And the single loss expectancy is 8,327. To mitigate the risk, we need to configure the right internet routing protocols, secured firewalls. Most importantly, authorized persons should have access to a server room. Also, regular software upgrades and applying patches needs to be performed. And the last the device we have is a switch server accessment system. Uh, the third would be unauthorized physical access, and even the hackers could access by accessing to one of the switches in the organization. There are more chances of getting access to content workstations, and even could even inject a piece of code into employees' workstations to run a piece of malicious code, because each device is interconnected to the another device, and threat likelihood is almost certain. Exposure is very high. Vulnerability severity is very high, and medium safeguard rating is medium, and the second largest annual loss expectancy after ISP router, which is 67,500. Uh, Exposure factor is 90%, annual rate of occurrence 12 times in a year, and single loss expectancy is 5,625. To mitigate the risk, we need to configure the right configuration protocols, secure switch interact physically, and most importantly, authorized person should have access to server room. And the regular software upgrades and applying patches needs to be performed. So thank you for your time, for your patience. I I wish you have a wonderful day for everyone. Thank you so much for your time again. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much for your help, for your patience uh, since the very first day of the CSP classes. I hope to see you soon one day. Thank you.